This is the third in the series on life's meaning and purpose. For those who weren't at the earlier ones, we looked at how social scientists have described the current situation as there being an epidemic of unhappiness, and it's reflected in the social disconnect, the massive and steep rise in not just unhappiness but depression, and the catastrophic rise in suicide rates. In the second, and so we basically pointed to this as being directly connected to people not having a sense of purpose and meaning in things, or the purpose and meaning that they are holding to be true is not delivering on the goods. And in the second talk, we spoke about how social scientists have discovered that there are clear actions that one can take that result in happiness, and it's universal. It's not like it only works in certain cultures or for certain age groups or types of people. There are very specific things that you can do that actually create a sense of purpose and meaning and do make people happier. So if you weren't here for that last week, I would suggest you take a look on either Facebook or YouTube and take a look at that, because there was some really, I think, very wonderful suggestions that different groups have produced. So today we're going to be touching on the actual, what's been described as the mystery of life. And can you actually know whether there is purpose or meaning? So I've made a few notes so I can hopefully keep on track and not go too long. So the reality is that there are many people, there are many organizations that are promoting an idea of purpose or meaning, what's going to give your life tremendous value. If we look at them though, and carefully look at them, we'll see that across this whole spectrum there is actually a clash of ideas and of values. This clash of ideas and values that arises often is because of one singular principle. Well, there's actually two, but one that's really jumps to the foreground. And that was one of the things that was pointed out in the three top things that this organization in the UK, Actions for Happiness, had written about. And as I pointed out, they are all academics. They are people that study happiness and study, you know, in the social sciences, these things. So it's not kind of somebody just referring to some belief system or anything that has a foundation in science. So one of the things that they stated was that self-centered individualism is not the route to happiness. That's actually putting it mildly. It's actually the route to unhappiness. This focus on self-centered individualism. And the reason that this is so is because it goes against a really fundamental and eternal spiritual truth. we'll see that many of the clash of ideas, if I can put it that way, they arise out of the clash between materialism and spirituality. The foundation of materialism is the idea that I am material, meaning this body that I have on, or the mind that I am using with all its desires, is me. Whereas the reality is that this is not who I am. This is a temporary garment I am taken on and I'm using in this experience that I refer to as my life. But it is not me. All spirituality is founded on the principle that I am an eternal spiritual being having a temporary material experience. The other side of that, of course, is materialism, that I am a material being. There is no spiritual reality or existence. And when you look at these ideas and you see how different philosophies, social movements, how they should be actually viewed in relation to those two things. One of the things that we've been heavily infected with is consumerism. This is a brand new thing. This has never existed since way back, thousands of years, through different civilizations. It was a brand new invention that came to the forefront in 1920s and became heavily promoted, that people, their greatest purpose will be found in consumption, the consumption of things. But actually it goes back further than that. It was an idea that came to the forefront driven by the industrialists and bankers in society that decided in order to have massive economic growth, which was going to be equated with everybody's well-being, people need to consume stuff. This has to be the big drive. And so there was a discussion, and in the newspapers it recorded these ideas of the need to shift people away from a needs-based society to a wants-based, a desires-based society. And so very early on in the development of the whole industry, if I can call it that, of advertising and PR, there was this recognition by using psychology, all these new tools that have become available to people, that every single person felt there was something lacking in their life. And now what we need to do is to tie products, services, experiences to this emptiness within and make a promise of being able to fulfill it. And if you do that, people will buy stuff. They will consume stuff at an ever-increasing rate. And so you get these dumb slogans, like back in the 70s, Coca-Cola came up with Coke is it. Coke is it? It's like, Coke is what? It. The magic it. The thing that you are looking for. The thing that you feel that is lacking in your life. And so there was this constant promotion. And people have now become increasingly tethered over a few generations to this idea that if I can just have enough stuff and enough material experience, I will find fulfillment. And my purpose and meaning in life is this headlong rush into acquiring skills, talents, and acquiring money, acquiring stuff, acquiring experiences, and this becomes my purpose. And if you go down this road, you will suffer. You will suffer emptiness and a sense of just like purposelessness. What the hell is this all about? And we've become, as a society, deeply infected by this idea. So here, Yeah, a lot of people have. Why do you go to school? To get a degree. Why do you want a degree? So I can get a good job. Why do you want to get a good job? So I can have prestige, but more important, money. And why do you want the money? Because then I can make my life fulfilled and happy. And it's just like, haven't you heard the songs? Money can't buy you love. And people have known about this for like thousands of years, that money cannot buy you happiness, it cannot buy you fulfillment. And yet our life is dedicated to that idea. We don't see, working just in terms of a sense of duty and doing something that could ennoble my life and allow me to, exist in society and do good and help others and things. No, it's all about the consumption. So there are, and we're so uncritical. We've become dumb. We've become so dumb in that we buy into it. Like what's going on now? Everybody recognizes that social media is probably one of the most evil things ever to come about. It is utterly transactional. People design buttons and things to get you addicted, to hold more of your attention, so they can track everywhere where you go, all the stuff that you're doing, what your values are, who you talk with, and they sell that information. You have just been utterly exploited. It doesn't serve any other purpose. You're just totally exploited. And we buy into all these ideas associated with meaning and purpose in life. So, of course, we can go on in that direction forever. And another frightful thing is the introduction of identity politics. I find this so irritating. Irritating because it is the key to unhappiness. The more you cling to some temporary experience or the temporary body and mind as being who you actually are, the more unhappy you will become. You cannot separate those things. What I'm saying is probably going to be really unpopular with a lot of people. I don't care about being unpopular. Somebody needs to say stuff. This sexism, racism, gender identities. Give me a break. This is the path to unhappiness, not to the path of fulfillment. Because it takes you away from any connection with all that is noble and all that is good, that is connected with your inner spiritual being. And it ties you to some temporary external experience. And it has your mind taking you down all these rabbit holes of desire and desire fulfillment that can never actually fulfill you, that leave you open and empty and lacking purpose and fulfillment. And of course, religion is often used in this way too. And when I say religion, I include atheism as a form of religion. A blind belief system where people just adhere to ideas that are not eternal, that are not spiritual, that are temporary and material. There is a need to connect with something much deeper. This shallow material experience is not cutting it. It's not delivering on the goods. Is the world becoming a better place? Are cities, with all the technology, are cities and things becoming better places to live? Is our society more humane and compassionate and caring and filled with love? And no. You know, it's filled with greed and envy, because that's the foundational motivation, economic motivation behind all advertising. This was recognized by Maynard Keynes, one of the great and early economists in the last century, who described the need to have people cultivate envy when you look at other people's stuff and you want it too. And greed for more, that what you get is not going to be enough, you need to have more. And there was a whole drive to retool society, to have people become greedy and envious. All advertising is based on envy. They call it lifestyle advertising. They don't even show you the stuff that they want to sell you. It's just some people having a cool time, and it's just like so far out, and then all of a sudden there might even be some subliminal connection, or at the very end a product pops up. This is all manipulation. Nobody's trying to do you a favor. They want your money, and they want it bad. And they want to sell you on ideas. And this has become a normal thing that's been accepted, which for thousands of years, envy of others was considered a detestable quality. That people that had this quality, they were to be avoided. They were a bad influence. Now we have a whole society run on this principle. Is this okay? Some people might think I'm being a bit strident. I am, because I care. It's not working. It's not delivering the goods. It's going in the opposite direction. So, you know, what's happening, know it, like it or not, we are accepting others as authorities who are giving us messaging, and we're buying into it without even questioning. Without any question whatsoever. And in all of the ancient spiritual cultures, particularly in the ancient spiritual culture of India, the Vedic culture, where all the yoga teachings came from, there was this really important requirement to seek out authoritative opinion. And that my life now becomes guided by authoritative opinion. There was no thought or idea that I can figure it out on my own. Because there was acceptance that all human beings in the conditioned state suffer from 4 defects. And on top of that, you've got a problem with the mind. We think of the mind as being this incredible tool that can lead us anywhere. No, it can't. It's a rather blunt instrument. The whole discussion of spirituality, we are talking about something that is beyond sensory perception. That's a pretty far out idea. I mean, that's a really far out idea. Our mind, can our mind actually comprehend the size of an atom? A hydrogen atom, one of the small ones. Can we actually comprehend how big that is? Anybody that tells you they can is lying. It's incomprehensible. If I tell you that 10,000 of them can fit on the dot of a pencil, you know, there's that point. Okay, let's see you divide that in your mind into 10,000. How big will that piece be? You can't get your head around that. Can you actually fully comprehend the size of this cosmic manifestation we may refer to as a universe, or filled with galaxies? Can we actually comprehend, you know, different people and different societies use different terms, basically talking of the cosmic creation. Can you get your head around it? How big it is? And the answer is no, you can't. If you say you can, you're lying. And if we want to talk about something that is meant to be beyond material existence, then how exactly is your mind that is limited to somewhere in between, that spectrum of the atom and the universe, if we can use that term, and you can't even get your head fully around that, how is your mind alone going to deal with something greater? And then we've got a little problem. The 4 accepted defects of human existence was the fact that our senses, seeing, hearing, touch, are imperfect. And because they are imperfect, even if they are amplified with technology, yes, you can do more, but they still remain fundamentally imperfect. That all human beings are subject to illusion. That's what the magic shows are all about, the illusionists. And if you've seen any of these programs on brain science, where they show people stuff and they're seeing something different than actually what's going on because of the nature of the way that the brain works and sensory perception works. And because of that, you can be put into an illusion. And in the state of illusion, it means you can't step back and see that you're an illusion. You're totally convinced that what you are seeing or what thinking is the highest truth. Then we've got the tendency of the conditioned being to cheat. We cheat ourselves. We lie to ourselves and to others. We cheat. That is a fundamental nature. And then we have a tendency to commit mistakes. And when I consider these 4 things together, then I need to seriously doubt how far down the road I can go on my own steam in terms of really figuring everything out. And it was with this humility that the great students of yogic teaching approached a spiritual teacher. Not with a surrender of your mind. No, you need logic, you need your intelligence in these things. But there was a recognition that, hey, I kind of need a little bit of help here. I don't fully have it together. Neither can I under my own steam. So in this ancient system, they relied on what they considered was spiritual authority. Now, the problem is spiritual authority means dealing with something that's probably currently beyond our experience. It was not about blind acceptance. Blind acceptance was considered a really bad news thing. That a person approached what was regarded as spiritual authority to question and to experiment on their own self. Because what we were dealing with is a complete change of consciousness. Our problem is that we've become locked in materialistic ideas, utterly conditioned. Proof of this is the whole social media experience and advertising. We don't even understand what's happening to us. And there's some profound things happening to us every time we're exposed to these different mediums, and we don't even observe it. We don't even observe how it is happening because we're not objective. We're subjectively, deeply moved by all this stuff. When it comes to the whole thing about purpose and meaning in life, our understanding is that we are eternal spiritual beings. And as such, you do have a nature, a spiritual nature. You do have a natural function. Just as the body and the mind have natural functions, the spiritual being, the soul itself, has a natural function. And the more that you are connected to what is naturally and spiritually you, the more happy you will become. Your purpose in life should be to discover this truth. Why am I here? What the hell is this all about? What should I be doing? What is this path to discovery that I need to take? I should not be complacent, living like an animal, just moved by whatever's put in front of me, whatever's stimulating my senses and mind, oblivious to my own and eternal spiritual existence. This is what self-realization, this is the actual purpose of human life, is self-realization, self-actualization. When I say self, I am referring to the spiritual being within you. You are the one that never dies. You leave this body, the body dies. You cannot die. You are an eternal spiritual entity. And the more you can connect with that, the more happy you will become. And all those things we discussed last week, on all these little steps that these guys had suggested of actions that you can take that demonstrably, it really delivers happiness to everyone. The reason why that occurs is because there is a spiritual underpinning to all those actions. They deal with a deeper spiritual truth. These guys are not saying that, they're scientists. We know that to be a spiritual truth though. But for us to really discover the deeper meaning and purpose of our life and our existence, there is a need to look to a higher spiritual authority and to receive this input and direction, which we don't just take on board, but we must begin a journey of discovery to use the tools and the direction that are given for myself to come to know and experience and realize this spiritual truth. Okay? That's it. All right or not? Was that a bit heavy? Huh? No? Okay, well, some people will find it. Yeah. And it's really hard because we have such short time to discuss things that are really incredibly important. Kindness and love, humility, compassion. These qualities arise from this journey of spiritual discovery. And the more you are tapped in to the experience of my actual being, my spiritual being, the happier you will become. Even in the midst of chaos all around you, difficulty, even personally, so much difficulty that you may experience. And life is hard. Don't think life is not hard. Nobody has a perfect life. Everybody is struggling. So you need to get over that one. There is no perfect thing. It's always going to be hard, but that doesn't mean it needs to be a bummer. When we become empowered with spiritual understanding and vision, then in spite of whatever's going on around us and happening to our bodies and everything that happens in this journey, this is not where we are finding our happiness. And we have an understanding and a perspective, and it doesn't rock us, it doesn't drag us one way or the other. A person remains steady and fixed in spiritual understanding and experience. So to that end, it is the chanting of these sacred sounds, these mantras, that actually is transformative. Acquiring knowledge is important, but your understanding of these spiritual truths won't just come from massaging your brain. It will come as a realization, an actual experience of deeper inner spiritual truth. This is the process. It is a process of supplication and being open to a higher truth, not being rigid and hard. So we'll chant a mantra, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Hari Om. This mantra, Om, speaks to the highest spiritual truth. Vasudevaya, this highest or absolute spiritual truth, who is also addressed as Vasudeva. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. This Namo or Namaha means with a heart of surrender, I open myself to this higher spiritual reality so that I may become enlightened and filled with spiritual experience of another transcendent reality. I'll just make one point. Although I speak kind of strongly about things, it's not like everybody is obliged, in order to be successful and happy in their life, to kind of like, just totally go in terms of, following a spiritual path. To any degree that you can adopt spiritual principles in your life and guidance, your life will be fantastic. It'll be greatly improved. So everybody has their own speed and their own time. Everybody has attraction to different types of processes and value systems and things, but just try to take some of these crumbs even and add them to your life. Your life will become really so much better. Thank you.